bring you another list next time.
Okay, you have one more you want to fire off real quick?
How about unconscious Thera lotion?
Yeah, so unconscious is literally about like calming down some of the unconscious drives. The idea was to be able to treat things in more of the lower chakras with the unconscious blend. A lot of our unconscious drives or unconscious desires comes out of the spleen. And unconscious in a way is kind of strengthening and fortifying to the spleen. And if you look at like what does the spleen do, it has to do with your overall vitality, but part of what it does is it also breaks down like air pranas and then digests it and then energizes other parts of the body. And then eventually the spleen contributes to like the strength and vitality of your emotional body, like your heart, your solar plexus. And so, like, for example, when the spleen is really depleted, you see somebody, you can almost like pinpoint like that their spleen's depleted without being able to measure energy, because they'll say things like, I just feel really blah, or the future doesn't feel like there's anything, or I have no hope. The no hope thing is big because they don't have the energy to feel. They don't have the energy to perceive. And it's not that they're being funky in their head. It's literally that the spleen is not providing enough energy for them to have those emotional responses. And so the unconscious blend is good for all the lower chakras. I mean, it's good for all the chakras, but especially the lower chakras, and even more so, especially the spleen. So it's a way to fortify the spleen and increase and improve function. But if there's unconscious things that are causing us to be upset or contribute to a health issue or some difficulty with a person, it would be the thing that you pull out to hit the things that are not in your head, because unconscious is you are not aware of it. So it could be something from childhood or something that somebody said or some influence or just some, primal fear that you have, or, who knows? Like most times we never really know what they are, but they're still there and they're impacting us. So it's just a way to be able to let those things go. The big one that I would say, this isn't what I intended it to be for, but, there's just times where I don't even know the best way to say it, but like there's just times where something gets set in motion. Usually it's not something that the person chooses, but like, say somebody was being really hard on you for a period of time and then they go away. Depending on how young you were and like how much that relationship could influence you. Sometimes what happens is they go away, so we pick up where they left off. Like, okay, you were really beating me up, so now that you're gone, yeah, I'll carry the torch and I'll do it myself. It's not a conscious choice. It's an unconscious kind of momentum is the best way to say it. And it helps to diminish like those unconscious momentums that cause like self-harm. It's usually the byproduct of something that was traumatic. It's usually not because of stress or fear, but it's like something that was traumatizing to you, hurt your feelings, and you might not even put two and two together, like, oh, that's what's happening with this, like this is causing this response. But you kind of go through and start treating it, and it's all like all of a sudden I feel better. We have times where people can influence us more than we realize. It's usually in our younger years or times where we were really worn down or really vulnerable in situations where whatever the person did had a bigger impact than normal. And so it is also a way to like diminish that component, if that makes sense.
Fantastic. It certainly does. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah. Like that's one that we actually broke out about, what was it, like 2 or 3 weeks ago? And like I just started playing with it again. I was like, man, I forgot how much I like this blend. And I think I was doing a thing where I was going through the joints, and oh man, it just felt good. There's a lot of larch in that, because it does have an impact on the respiratory tract some. And so it's not something I'd use specifically for the respiratory tract, but the spleen is the center where, I'm just like going off on a tangent, but the spleen is where a lot of that unconscious like thinking and desire kind of resides. But for us to be able to access it, to like tap into it or to release it, it's done through the breath. So even though it's there, like, there's ways to unwind it a little bit, but utilizing and harnessing the breath is like one of the quickest ways to unwind those unconscious things. And so it was meant to like kind of augment some of that.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
Merry Christmas.